Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we want to just have a brief look at Peppermint versus Linux Mint. This is a question that some people have asked me about, and I'm quite qualified to certainly address this one as I use both of these systems in production environments. So I'm recording this video on Linux Mint, which I also use for my web development laptop and also a new web development desktop computer I have in the office. I use Peppermint for my banking computer and for my writing computer that I write and produce all of my books on. So with this video, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a look at the pros and cons of each of these systems. We're just going to do a little bit of comparing and contrasting. So let's go ahead and first start by having a look at the websites of each. So the Linux Mint website, you head on over here. Of course, you can get any of your updates. You can grab your links. And to download it, you can come over here. Now, Linux Mint immediately has a couple of options in that we have a Debian-only edition, which is LMDE, and we have the standard one based on Ubuntu, which is generally the one we will be referring to throughout this video. So they are both going to be based on Ubuntu. The latest version, Linux Mint 19.2, is available in 32 and 64-bit versions with Cinnamon, Mate, and XFCE desktops. So out of the box, we have a good system that's going to work on newer and older computers alike. Now, with this, their philosophy in Linux Mint is to have a very easy to use, very familiar computer experience for anybody switching primarily from Windows into the Linux operating system with the bare minimum of resistance. So everything is going to be set up just like Windows for the most part. We are going to have a lot of, everything is going to pretty much be set. This does mean that each of these systems, by the way, are going to have a little bit of proprietary stuff in there, handling some of your drivers and things like that. Nothing major. There's not anything, any major spyware or anything like that. In fact, Linux Mint takes a specific stance against spyware to the point where they have even stripped the snap out of Ubuntu because of their concerns with the snap applications. And they've went with Flatpaks instead. And they have not opted into any of the potential data collection that the Ubuntu branch is trying to do. Now, looking over at Peppermint, they also have the 32 and 64-bit editions. Now, this is as the time we're recording this. And the next LTS of Ubuntu, 32-bit is dropped, so it's likely that both of these systems are going to be dropping 32-bit operating systems going forward. But for now, you can still get these ones, and they still have some support going through the next couple of years. Now, Peppermint is more like an amalgam. It has XFCE and LXQT elements in it. It's going to have several things from Mint, like it has the Nemo file manager instead of Thunar, which you would usually find in XFCE. It's going to have the Linux Mint software manager because it just works really well, the software store and the updater. So there's a lot of elements that it has. But Peppermint's specific role is kind of to be an answer to the Chromebook. And so they were designed to be super lightweight, to be used on smaller hardware, and to have a lot of internet connectivity, which is why they have this new system called Ice applications, which you can install in other platforms as well. You can install the system, but Peppermint has that already configured out of the box. And so with that, looking at both of the systems, the overarching thing, if you want a few more options in your desktop environment, or if you want to move away from Ubuntu altogether, Linux Mint is definitely going to be your thing. If you are running this on lower end hardware, you're definitely going to want to be looking at Peppermint, as all of the Linux Mint versions, while they're not super heavy on the system resources, none of them can compare to the lightweightness of Peppermint. And so even the XFCE, Linux Mint XFCE, does run heavier than the basic Peppermint does. It's just amazing in how the system works. So so with that, let's go ahead and have a look at both of these systems in a brief virtual machine. All right, so here we are on Linux Mint, and we're going to be doing the Linux Mint on Cinnamon. XFCE and Mate are going to be somewhat similar. Now, as far as what is going to be the same in the system, since we're running off a live key, we do not have the update manager installed. You will see that down here in the system tray. And that's going to give you an indicator whether there are updates available, the system is already up to date, or it cannot access the network. The other thing that's going to be the same is your software manager. Both of them are going to use the Linux Mint software manager, which is an excellent software manager. We can actually search for different things by categories. And in the case where there might be a few different applications, it's going to show you if the one that you are installing is going to be from the repositories or from the Flatpak. I'm not sure if the Flatpak repository is up to date since we are here on the live key or not. But that's going to be a feature that you have. And also, as I mentioned, they both use the same file manager, which is going to be Nemo. As far as everything else out of the box, the system monitor is going to show you that if we look at Linux Mint, we're going to be running on about 1.2 gigs. Now, this is going to be a little bit flexible. If you have less system memory, then it will use less memory. So it uses more memory the more memory is available. And it does this kind of like Windows does to preload things a little bit faster. And so they're going to run either way, but even this machine, which has 6 gigs of RAM, is taking 1.2 gigabytes or 20% of the memory to run the basic system. Your look and your feel is going to be very much like Windows, especially in the newer versions here where everything is pinned just like in the more modern Windows. Other thing that you're going to see different on Linux Mint is you're going to have a lot more applications installed out of the box. So we have GIMP installed, we have a full Office suite installed, the full suite of LibreOffice is installed, and then we just have a variety of other tools already installed. We do have a lot more generic system tools like USB writers and formatters that I do not believe are in Peppermint. Other than that, though, they're going to be a very similar experience. In Linux Mint, we have system settings. Now, this is going to be slightly different depending on which one of the three you're using, but all of them are going to be effectively the same thing. We can come in over here, we can change our appearance. We have some basic system preferences, including screensaver, startup applications, privacy settings, online accounts, which online accounts is something that is not on Peppermint. So if you are needing to sync up to a Google account or Nextcloud account, Facebook, Microsoft, something like that, then Cinnamon, in fact, not even Linux Mint XFCE or Mate have those either. So this is a Linux Mint Cinnamon deal. Basic hardware, we have the driver utilities down at administration, firewalls, things like that are going to be very similar. So your system settings is easy to find, easy to configure inside of here. As far as your desktop icons, this is going to be the same. This was an issue in the past with Peppermint. We'll show you Peppermint in a minute. But over here, we can look at our desktop settings, which is also inside of your settings panel. You can turn on or turn off your different icons here. We do have more configuration options for our desktop in Cinnamon as of recent, where you can adjust the size of the icon spacing, the size of the icons themselves. So we have a couple different options here. So if you are looking for more desktop customizations, Cinnamon's going to be your best bet. I believe XFCE and Mate are going to have somewhat similar settings in here as well. Like I said, this is something that is a little bit more specific to Cinnamon, as it's a Cinnamon 4.0 function and feature. So overall, Cinnamon is going to have, or Linux Mint specifically, is going to have more Office suites installed no matter which one of the three you're using. We have a few more system utilities. You're going to get a little bit more of a fuller system, but it is going to take a little bit more system memory to get things done. Your layout is going to be similar for both of them, and your basic package management updates and things are going to be the same. And I believe they both do have Synaptic Package Manager as well if you're needing something like that. So let's go ahead and have a look at Peppermint next. Okay, so here we are on Peppermint. And Peppermint, again, you're going to have a very similar layout. You'll have the update manager down here, which I don't actually have listed here simply because we're not installed on the system. Our layout's a little bit smaller by default, but you can edit the panels, go ahead and do the panel preferences and change the sizes of the panels and things. The other thing is the desktop icons. They actually put the same exact tools and features in here to change the desktop icons that they had in Linux Mint Cinnamon. So this is going to be identical. This is actually good because this used to be something that was you had to go and add your desktop icons with a deconf editor. And so now everything is set up just like Linux Mint Cinnamon. So you're not going to have any differences there. There are actually two software managers in here. I forgot about that, but and we're talking in addition to Synaptic Package Manager. We have the GNOME Software Manager and we have the Linux Mint Software Manager. So you have two different software managers to pick from, as well as having Synaptic in the box. The other thing that makes us stand out is your ICE applications. So these are basically containerized systems. Now, Firefox has the ability to containerize different things, and I believe the other ones might as well. But this is a nice feature in that we can create one separate containerized item. We can put it on the menu. So if we go under Office, for example, rather than having an Office suite installed, it has these links to Microsoft Office Online, Google Drive Online. Some people, of course, will not like those in this Linux world, but this is just, like I said, Peppermint's idea was to be an answer to the Chromebook. So all containerized, everything going online. You can right click these guys, add them to the desktop, add them to the panel, just like that. So you can actually do those. You can also come in here and you can remove them. And of course, if you remove them, it is going to remove them from the system, and it should remove them from the menu, but you'll notice that it did not remove it from the desktop. So just go ahead and remove that from the desktop. So the ICE applications is a nice tool. And yes, you can install this on Linux Mint if it's a function that you want or need. It'll enable you to just give it a name, give it a web URL, select where it will appear in the menu, and then either give it a custom icon or the site favicon, and you can choose whether it opens in Chrome, Chromium, Vivaldi, and Firefox. Now, these ones are all grayed out because I actually do not have any of these other three installed on the system, so Firefox is my only choice. So that's the ICE applications, which really does help Peppermint stand out. Now, the other place, the other area we're going to have a quick look at here, it was just on the main favorites, but let's have a look at our settings panel. So our settings panel here, you'll notice here is a little bit less less containerized. It's less easy to find stuff, I think, in this one. So we have color icons, so you can choose from a variety of different color icons from your colors and things like that. So you can set your panel. Here is the control center, which is going to have some of your basic desktop effects, window manager effects, things like that. Customizing the look and feel. This is just your basic color settings using the icon themes. There's a variety of different icon themes you can choose from. Mouse cursors, things like this. So all the different customization tools are inside of here. Wallpapers. They do integrate Dropbox. I do not like this at all. I do not like Dropbox as a company, and I really wish that they would not have it this deeply integrated into the system such that they have a Dropbox icon in the settings panel. That does actually irritate me a little bit. And actually, I'll note that I'm still using a version of Peppermint before they did that. So, you know. We do have an option under the tweaks. They do have some very nice features here. So if you've screwed up all your panels, get into your settings, click on this button here. It's going to reset all of your settings for your panels back to normal. So that's good. Any hardware stuff are additional driver tools, pulse audio control, displays, printers. So everything here, we can create and delete the ICE applications, things like that. And here's your system, Synaptic Package Manager, users, group, startup application. So all the basic stuff that you find. I don't like is how it's organized as much over here. Now there's one more feature in Peppermint that Linux Mint does not have that is very nice, and that is it's an advert blocker. So the advert blocker, basically all this is going to do is there are these different groups you can go through. And basically all this is going to do is it's going to make adjustments to your system host file for you. So if you've heard me talk in the past about adjusting your hosts file, that's what this application does. You can see here that it adds a whole lot of blocking scripts. And this guy here, it should update itself as well. And so you can see here it's just blocking a whole lot of things just by using that advert blocker. So that's one more feature that Peppermint has. So there is your comparing and contrasting. Wow, I don't know what happened to my color, but oh well. There's your comparing and your contrasting inside of Linux Mint versus Peppermint. My overall take, you're not going to go wrong with either system. If you have a more lightweight system, like I use a Lenovo S21E, which is a super low spec duo core just above an Atom processor with 2 gigs of soldered RAM, that guy there, I run Peppermint, and it runs every bit as well as Cinnamon does on my bigger computer systems. On my regular size, bigger computer systems, more RAM, more hardware resources, I do prefer Cinnamon a little bit more. You're not going to go wrong with either one, but there's a little bit of the similarities and the differences between Linux Mint and Peppermint. Let me know your thoughts on all these in the comments down below.